Now you have 5 kids and 2 are adopted and they're a different color than you are and they've got learning challenges and they had a bunch of drugs in their system and they still have biological parents and you still have kids that are your kids and then you have kids that are your kids but they're different kids from different blended amounts. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, we needed a part 2.
Here's the deal. We're 2 moms and we pop babies out in our 40s. And it's hard.
It was hard.
It's also the best thing that's ever happened to either one of us.
Yeah, but now we're moms in our 40s.
In our 40s.
With preschoolers. So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
Let's bring the community together of women.
All the moms, 40, 20.
And also, let's just talk about real shit. Real life, real women shit.
Yeah, real women shit. Let's do that.
Shit's hard. And also it's funny. Life is funny.
Let me just pull my bush out of my bush.
Cheers.
Cheers. Unfiltered.
Because if you want a show, we're a shit show. We're here for you.
Yeah.
Woo! Mature mamas in the house today on this lovely, lovely Tuesday. I mean, it's a Tuesday.
Because you're watching on a Tuesday and it's probably like May or something. We don't really even know.
It's a surprise to everybody when this shit comes out. Nobody
knows. I was thinking about that, how other people are prepared and they actually dress or talk about what's going on that's relevant during that time. Not us, because it's almost Easter, but it's going to be way past Easter when they watch this.
Yeah. So why would we talk? I mean, why would we talk about anything other than what we want to talk about
right now?
Right now. We called Sara, I think.
Sarah. Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday again. Hey, Sara. Hi. We loved your last conversation. We thought we wanted to expand because she's got a lot of cool things to talk about.
Yeah. You can't just have one part.
No. This is a two-parter. 2 parts.
Double part.
Boom, boom.
And we promise you guys, Sara is here.
I was going to say, we're going to let Sara talk eventually, but
we just don't know. It's going to be a surprise when we do. We're still setting up for life here, getting it all going on, figuring out where we need to be.
Bing bong, ding dong.
If you didn't watch last week's episode, whatever week this is, I'm sure it was last week's episode that Sara was sharing about her journey as both a foster mama and an adoption mama, which was so cool. But then we felt like it was like this big cliffhanger because it's like, okay, now you have 5 kids and 2 are adopted and they're a different color than you are and they've got learning challenges and they had a bunch of drugs in their system and they still have biological parents and you still have kids that are your kids and then you have kids that are your kids but they're different kids from different blended amounts. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, we needed a part 2. Because I think we left it with a cliffhanger, kind of like we adopted these children.
Ta-da!
And then, but there's some really neat stuff that happens after that. So, Sara, welcome.
Welcome, Sara.
Which I kind of think is what people think. Like, oh, you adopted a child. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're clocked out. You're clocked in, and we'll see you.
And life's just going to be normal.
It's just normal. Yeah, you have 5 children instead of 3, and congratulations, it's a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
Bye.
So give us a quick recap. Your family is the what? So it's you and Chuck are married, and
then we have our 3. I always say there are 3 biological, not together, obviously, but they are. So we have the 3 of them.
Wait, explain that because they're like, what are they talking about?
I have one that was in my belly from a previous marriage, and Chuck has 2 from a previous marriage, all who live in the same household from the time of being 5 and 6.
They weren't in Chuck's belly, though. He's not the belly
They
mom.
were not in Chuck's belly.
Clarification.
That has been questioned by our 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Fair.
And then adoption of Miles and JoJo. So to this day, we have 20, 20, 18, 6, and 5.
Woo.
When adoption happened, everybody was still in the house.
So you had a full house.
Yes.
I've watched that.
Yeah.
I think
who's Danny?
Yeah.
Who's Danny Tanner? Who gets to be DJ?
Danny Tanner is for sure Chuck. Mr. Chuck is Danny Tanner.
Yeah.
And you could be Rebecca, even though Rebecca's with Jesse, but still that feels right.
It does. Yeah. And you kind of look like her, and you're cool.
You're super
like that.
cool and beautiful. So that makes sense.
Uncle Jesse. I'll be Uncle Jesse.
Okay.
Just kidding.
She's coming in hot as Uncle Jesse.
Uncle Jesse and the Rippers.
Did you ever watch Full House, Sarah?
Oh, I love the Full House.
And then there's the Fuller House, which just isn't as full as the first Full House.
Doesn't hit the same.
Really? Never saw it. Never
That's
watched
why.
it. Yeah.
That's why, because that was a one-hit wonder of one episode, one season of 40,000 shows. That's all that hit for them. Too bad.
Yeah.
So you got the Fuller House, the Full House.
Yes, and COVID.
Oh, you're all there in
wow.
COVID.
We got JoJo 3 days before the world shut down.
That's right. I remember that part of that story.
Yeah, tell us about that. How was that acclimating to now a family of 7 and being on lockdown in your home?
It was challenging, that's for sure. I mean, so Miles was sick for so long that we were already kind of homebound with him. Then COVID hit, and so then that terrified me even more because I'm already self-admittedly a germaphobe. And so when he was so sick, that made it even worse. And then COVID hit, and that made it even worse, and blah, blah, blah. And then, Jake didn't get to start his freshman year of high school. At high school, he had to start it in our basement. And then our child, who already didn't like school, just didn't like it even more and didn't do it very good. And our daughter went into like a depression, and it was great.
I feel like that's probably a pretty common story for most families. I mean, besides like just getting a new adopted baby, I feel like that whole story feels pretty common. Like maybe not exactly the same, but people were struggling, kids were struggling, like so yeah, and then to throw it on top of we just got a new baby.
Who this baby and still Miles at the time, because they were only 16 months apart, were still supposed to be having weekly visits.
Oh, with their biological?
Correct, but they had to now be online.
So like a Zoom?
So I was just holding a 3-month baby like this in the camera.
So they were 3 months and 19 months?
3 months and 19 months.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Here's your
Wow.
baby. Yeah.
How long did you have to hold the baby up to the camera?
30 minutes.
Okay. What did the parent do?
Well, so she didn't show up very often.
Okay.
So on the times that she did, she would just talk to her. I mean, I kind of felt bad for her too, because it's like, what is she supposed to say and do for 30 minutes? And so I would kind of I didn't show my face ever, but I'd kind of be like talking for her. I don't know. It was weird. Like, I just wanted to not be silent. So I was like,
Hi, Mom.
it was weird.
I love you. I'm doing good with moms and pops.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yes.
for checking on me. This is my voice.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just weird all around. And then on the times that she didn't show, the caseworker and I we'd have to wait for 15 minutes. She got a 15-minute window. So
You were
he
there
and
no
I
matter
would
what.
just be chatting it up. It was just all around.
And
weird.
that was weekly?
Twice a week.
Oh, twice a week. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a wonderful hour of your life every week during
Until
COVID.
Termination.
Which was?
Not until she was almost 2.
Can you say what termination means? It sounds scary.
Termination of parental rights.
Okay. And does that happen when adoption occurs, or can it happen at a different time?
No, it happens before.
Okay.
So they have to terminate the parental rights, and then the parents have an opportunity to appeal that decision, which most of the parents do. And so then you're in another window of about 9-ish months where they're working on deciding if the appeal is going to go through or not. And then they set an adoption date.
Can we talk about the unstableness of all of this for a second? Because at first, rewind to 13 seconds ago, and I was just thinking about like the unstableness for the child of like whether or not my biological or bio person is going to show up, and then feeling like you're constantly being let down. And then in addition, during this termination period, you guys anticipating and hoping for adoption, but also just having this like push pull of will it happen, and this like every day I can't imagine the anxiety and the stress that made you feel of like, are they going to show up today? And if they do show up, how are they going to show up? What was that all like?
Yeah, so it's weird because, like I said, they drill into your head that reunification is the goal. And I want that for everybody involved. But then there are moments where you're like, I actually don't want that. And so it was hard. And my goal, I think, through all of it was just to make sure that I never had a relationship with the fathers of either of our 2 adopted kids. One, because we don't know who the father is, and one, because he was always incarcerated. And so I tried to build a relationship with the mothers to let them know that they will always be their mom. They'll always be their first mom. That will always be their story. They'll never go away, because I wasn't trying to coax them into not wanting to be a mother or do what they needed to do to get the kids back. I just wanted them to have that peace of mind and knowing that, like, you know, they'll always be a part of their story. And so I think that made it a little bit easier, just because they didn't necessarily feel like they needed to fight me. But yeah, I mean, it's quite honestly just a shit show. The system is just a disaster. You can, you know, have one caseworker that feels this way, and then they leave, and then this caseworker comes and they feel this way, or, you know, the GAL never shows that. What the GAL is basically an attorney, guardian ad litem.
Just this lady who shows up sometimes.
Like
Hey,
gal
gal.
pal.
Or the judge switches halfway through the case, or, you know, there's just all these different things. Or grandma's cousin comes from out of the woodworks and now wants the child. And so they're always searching for relatives throughout the entirety of the case. So that was honestly more what was a struggle for us, is that we were wondering, would family come out of the woodworks? And they did one time with Miles, and he was 12 months old and still very, very sick. And me being me, I again found them on Facebook and friended them and asked to have a conversation with them, which is not technically allowed, and let them know what was going on and the true story. And they were like, oh, wow, we were not given any of that information. We had no idea he was so sick. We had no idea that he had been with you since birth. We had no idea that you had all these doctors and this and that and da 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 da. So they're like, he belongs with you. Whereas the court system kind of makes them feel like if you don't take him, they're going to be in an orphanage for the rest of their life. And, you know, so.
That's incredible that the grandma or the people in this situation could recognize your ability to provide and the situation that was there, and come from a space of love for the benefit of the child, of Miles, you know? And I just would pray that happened more often, but I'm sure it doesn't as well. Or people don't do their Nancy Drew work and go Facebook crazy on them and scoop them up, you know? Which, good for you. Because you do what you got to do. That's what you advocate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
We made it through. It was challenging, but we made it.
So, Sarah, after all of that, you finally become legally the adoptive parents of both of these children. Was that around the same time, or was it Miles
No,
first and then?
Yeah, Miles was in 2020, so our adoption was online.
Oh, wow.
Our first experience with an adoption, and it was online. But so we got to invite all of our family to join online, which was kind of cool, because I think, you know, there's some good and bad things about COVID. And one of the things that came out of that, it was that they did allow virtual attendance, whereas that wouldn't have happened before. So that was cool, because not all of my family could have made it. And then Jojo was 22.
That makes sense, because if she was
2022-ish.
yeah.
And she wasn't 22 years old, but it was in 2022.
2022. Yes.
It's my brain, guys. It's my
Right?
brain.
Yeah, because it'll be, yeah. So then, like, legitimately, you adopt, the judge whaps his little thing, and
You're the mom, and you're now
you're
legally
done.
their parents, and you can just move on with your life in the way that you want to.
We'll send you the adoption decree, and bye. And so then you're just like, it's weird, because you've been in this space where you're like, I can't wait till I don't have these, because all throughout this, you're having monthly visits with XYZ people, and, you know, having to still report owies and do all the weird things. And then all of a sudden that's done. And then you're like, wait a second.
Now
we have
what?
so much free time. What are we going to do with all this time?
I bet it was gone instantly. It's kind of like
Yeah,
when you're
it's
planning
gone
for a
instantly.
wedding and then you're like, the wedding's over and you're like, have the like, wow, I just went through all that. Like, yeah, who am I? What do I do with my hands?
Right. So it's weird, and it's an adjustment and transition. And, you know, now we're 3 years, almost, I guess it's 4.5 with Miles and almost 3 with JoJo. And they are just our children. Like it really is, you know, we don't ever forget that we adopted them, but it just is our life. But there's a lot of different that comes with adoption, and raising kids. And so we've just been navigating that new space.
So, do you want to explain, like, just their background a little bit and how that changes your family dynamic, and maybe even just changes some outside opinions, or if you get in any, you know?
Yeah, so we are an interracial family. Miles is mixed. His birth mom is white. His birth father is Black. And then JoJo is Black. We don't know her birth father, but her mom is a very beautiful Black woman, and JoJo looks so much like her. And so we've navigated that obviously since the beginning. We live in
Sarah, what color are you for the people in the back that don't have that visual?
I am white.
Yeah, Chuck and Sarah are
White.
We are.
Caucasian.
Yes.
Which is cute to put our arms up to our kids now, because they're like, that's not white. That's kind of like a tan. And I'm like, I mean, it is.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm peach.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of sorts.
Yeah.
So,
They shouldn't box us all in like that.
Yeah.
right. So we've had to do a ton of just learning how to navigate being parents of a different race. And, you know, you would think that it wouldn't be a deal or an issue, but it is. And I want it to be. I want them to know that their cultures and their history. And so I've had to dive into more of how can I do that for them, be that for them, not do them a disservice. And that's what I tell everybody is I don't want to do them a disservice. Like, I want them to know who they are and where they came from. It's hard though. It's challenging because there are certain people that think that I, you know, chose them for their color, or that, you know, that's just the only way we would have adopted it is if they looked like that. And that's not true at all. We've just kind of had to dive into what can we do to, you know, make sure that they're feeling like themselves. So we get JoJo's hair done, get it braided, and her braider is incredible, and she's so kind to me, and she gives me all the tips and tricks and, you know, what I can do and where I can go and where I should take them. And, you know, we read books. We have dolls that are the same color as them, and just very open. The kids ask us questions all the time. Miles has a little bit of a harder time with wondering why he doesn't look like us. And so we have a lot of talks about that God makes everybody different. Nobody looks, you know, no two people look the same. And so yeah, just navigating all of that has been pretty challenging in and of itself. You know, and there's moments where you're like, you know, I forget that we don't all look alike. But then I've been corrected that, you know, we are supposed to see color. Color is important. And so we just work through all these different things. And it's hard as a mom because I don't, like I said, I don't want to do a disservice to them, but I also don't want to make it seem like it's a huge thing. So
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to be given and figure out, you know, especially when they're little too, because I'm sure they have a lot of questions about all of those things. I do like how, I think you've told us before that each of your kids have their own belly mom. And
Yes.
that's kind of how that's explained to everybody.
yeah, so they all have their own tummy mom, and you know, that is different. That's how we're all different, because we all have different tummy moms. And so, you know, it's hard too because we are very, very, very open with adoption. We're very open with their story. As a 5 and 6 year old should know. And there are some people that aren't. There are some people that's kids have no idea that they're adopted. And so I struggle sometimes too with like, exactly how much I tell them and worrying that they're going to say something. But then I'm like, no, that's their story. Like they deserve to know that. And so, because there's so many pieces that come with adoption later in life. Like Miles is the youngest of 12 siblings. And so he's going to start to figure that out. I mean, he knows he has siblings. We're connected with 3 of them. The others just don't want to have a part of anything right now, and that's fine. But he's going to have questions, why am I not with them? Why did they go with this family and I came with you? And so I'm just trying to navigate it all as it comes along. And JoJo's going to have question that, we don't know who her birth father is. And so we'll have to cross that path when we get there. And, if there's going to be abandonment issues, I'm sure, as they get older, and just all the things that you don't think about when adoption is a beautiful thing, but it's also a very devastating thing. Like to sit back and think that my parents, the initial thing that I think that they say that adopted children think when they get old enough is that I wasn't wanted. And so they have to process all of that and go through therapies for all of that.
And you're like, Sarah's super mom, you guys. She is one of the most incredible mothers I have ever met in my life. Even like when you were just starting to foster, she was always supporting me because you're so connected in your intentional like seek out of information and knowledge, whether that's who you follow on Instagram or different social media and researching different things to support them. How do you are you a part of any groups that support you with these types of potential future challenges, or who do you connect with for some of that?
Yeah, so I am all about connection and finding the people that know what I don't to teach me. And so I'm, my older kids make fun of me that Facebook is for like the old people. And I'm like, well, it's where I'm connected the most, so I'm part of like foster and adoptive groups. I'm part of interracial groups. I'm part of, autism groups. I'm part of all these different, hair groups and just things like that, where I find the most support, because I think, you only know what you know. And so the more you can find it and the more you can search for it, the better it is. So, and I've built a lot of really cool connections that way, which have benefited the kids. So, and I think it's good for me too, to be able to kind of teach like my husband and my older kids the things that I know, because they aren't in the space where A, it's really their job to figure it out, and B, where they even honestly think about it, especially the bigger kids. Like it doesn't even faze them. They're just like, they're our siblings. Like, well, moving on.
Yeah. How cool is that? Like when you were talking about the similarities and differences and acknowledging our differences while also like just being able to be a family, so that I love that you're trying to keep and doing your best to have their cultural and their heritage, known and supported through what you're doing. And then at the same time that your big kids can be like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, we're family. Like, this is just what? Like, it's so natural for them, which I think is such a beautiful juxtaposition of both sides, because it is beautiful to know that we're different, and also to know that we're also one. We're still one, even though we're different.
Right. And it's fun too, because like my big kids, they're so much bigger that Allie always, because we get questions all the time, and the majority of the questions you just know that they just want the story. And so sometimes it just depends what kind of mood we're in. Sometimes we give them the story. Sometimes we play with them. Allie oftentimes likes to say that the babies are hers. Which she is blonde hair, as pale as can be. And so it's
so
just
thin and tall, and
it's hilarious. And people will just kind of look at us like, what is happening? And we just roll with it. So it's fun. It's been, and we've had to kind of go through moments like that to get through some of the times. And so it's been fun to see the dynamic that they all have. But they really are just siblings that, fight and yell at each other and play and love and do all the things. So
I think it's really cool too, because coming from, I have like half siblings, and I think that's just really a lot more common than it ever used to be. People, a lot of people have been divorced and remarried and had babies and blah, blah, blah. So once you're in a situation like that, you do understand that they are just your siblings. Like you grow up together in the same house, you have the same parents, like you go to the same schools, like it's all just becomes like, that's what it is. And you do kind of, especially when you're in that bubble, kind of forget that the world looks at that differently. And I do want to just acknowledge something that you had said earlier that I thought was amazing is, I think it's so cool that you do tell them and allow their other family members to still maybe want contact or come into contact with them, because in my eyes, I think that that's just more humans to love them. And I think that people, if they take some things away from this conversation, that's an important part for everybody, not just adoptive people, but divorced families, you know, they get remarried or have, you know, extra people in their life who care about your kids. I think that that's beautiful to allow them to love your children from wherever and whoever they are. So I thought that was a really cool thing that you're still encouraging his other family. And because that is a part of him, and he is going to feel a connection to those people, even if he doesn't know them. So that's really neat, Sarah. I love that.
Thank you. I encourage both of their birth moms to contact me. I send them pictures all the time. I, you know, let them know about once a month how the kids are doing, because I want them more than anything to be a part of their life, but they know that they have to be healthy and sober. And unfortunately, that hasn't been able to happen yet. But I have this love for them that I didn't know I would have. For just bringing them into the world, choosing to actually carry them and bring them into the world versus not, because they wouldn't be here with us. And B, you know, that they have gone through a lot of hard in their lives. And like I said in the last episode, they didn't have somebody to take the child and help them through. And so they have had to navigate this a lot on their own. And so I want them to know that they've got me as a support in their corner, and that they'll always have their children if, you know, they want to be a healthy connection for them. So that's my goal one day, is that we can all be in the same room and playing and happy, and they can call us both mom if they want to. I mean, I truly, that doesn't bother me. That brings me joy to think that could actually happen someday.
Yeah, that's amazing, because we all know as mothers that they still love those kids. Yeah. You know, like no matter what they can't overcome, their hurdles that they're going through in their life, they still love their children. So that's amazing.
It makes me think about too the challenges that some of you out there might be having with relationships with other people in your life that you feel threatened by. And Sarah's not coming from what we're seeing any space of threat, but a space of potential love and opportunity. And just tying into what you were saying, Megs, where like your child might have a stepmom now, and that doesn't have to be threatening. You can do your best to have quality communication around that and have additional love for them, and that you're really supporting and creating a space where that's possible for your kids.
Yeah, because I think we've all witnessed and all found out that the bottom line, if your bottom line is love, if it comes from that space, that's the only way that it's ever going to work, you know, for everybody. And then you're not carrying around, like we talked about, you're not carrying around these additional feelings or this baggage that you really don't need to carry with you in life, when really, if you just come from a space of love, you don't have to be best friends with her.
Right.
Yeah. But you both have love for the child that you guys are all raising together, no matter if you like that or not, you know. So if you can come from that space, I think that's awesome. And then also, you just touched on another thing that a lot of people have in their life, and a lot of people hear this word, and some people don't understand it in any form other than what they've heard or seen. But you said that one of your kids has autism. And
yes,
do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, you know, I will just say that when you adopt a child, you are a mother, you did not get to, you know, do everything in your power to keep them healthy in the womb. And so both of my kiddos were born with many substances. And so that just is an initial hard start to life. And then, you know, you don't know anything genetically that's gone on with them typically. I mean, if it's a private adoption, might be a different thing, but adopting through the foster world, you don't get a lot of, you know, background medically. And so there's just a lot of things that medically, trauma wise, behavioral wise that come as they get a little bit older. And so Miles was diagnosed with autism, about 2 years ago. We suspected it for a little while, but getting in to get an assessment takes forever. And so that has been the most challenging thing. So he's by far the hardest child I have ever raised in my life. I love him more than anything in this world, but there's just a lot, and you can see him really struggle with it. A lot of people say, oh, he doesn't look autistic, or it doesn't seem, you know, he makes eye contact. How is he? And this is another one of those paths that I've gone down where I've just had to start joining groups and researching my own stuff, because it is just, it's so isolating. I've lost a lot of friendships. And so it's a hard one. It's really hard to navigate. And I think the hardest part about it is I see the frustration in him. I see that he told me the other day that his brain doesn't feel like it's connected to his body, and he wants his body to do things, but his brain won't do it the right way. And then kids make fun of him. It's just so hard. And so then he's made, you know, it's made out to kind of be like, oh, he's the naughty kid, and, you know, mom, slap him on the butt and he'll be fine. And parenting now is way different than even when I parented the big kids. And so I am parenting differently, period. But then to parent a child with special needs and what they call, like, you know, a hidden disability, or like, I don't know what the right term is. I don't know. There's terms for everything these days, but it's hard. And I don't know. Some days I feel like I just want to hide in a closet, and other days I feel like we're having great days, but we're getting there. And as he's old, getting older, he's learning. I mean, we do tons of therapy. That's another thing, that adopting a child with trauma and medical needs is you're in lots of therapies, and, you know, things that you just don't think are going to be your life. And then little JoJo, you know, she was born with most of the same substances, but she made it full term. And so medically she was healthier. But, you know, then she's over here with this like secondary trauma, because, you know, she's now learning how to be a sibling to a special needs brother. And she's almost being not put on the back burner, but oftentimes just everything that he presents is so much, you know, more in your face, that she's kind of just sits back here. And so that's a whole another round of like different therapies and stuff that need to happen to help her understand that she's wanted and loved and need, you know, so it's a lot.
And I think about, I don't imagine many people consider the siblings when it comes to a family that's got an autistic child, where you're like, this is for always. So every behavior she knows, especially as she's living with Miles, she's learning behaviors from him, even though they're not coming from that same disconnected space, but she's still seeing different ways of being. And then it's kind of like it's not like he gets a free pass in acting like that, but this is who he really is, but this isn't who you really are. So we're going to act this way. And now we're going to be even more different from each other. And like, just the challenges, I think probably for most of us who don't parent an autistic child, we can't even imagine. And then the judgments, because Sarah and I, all of us have had a lot of conversations on how people, whether you're just making it up that they're looking at him a certain way, but there's eyes, and there's judgments, and there's people start to show up a different way. And one thing we've always just tried to do here on our compound is just like support Sarah in parenting how how parenting works right for her. And we don't care what the fuck anybody else says about it. Like, this is what works for Miles. This is what works for Sara. And we're learning too about how to support him as best as we can as he maneuvers through this disconnection of head and body and just all of the different things.
Well, and then to go like into the school education space is a whole nother ball game. And I've always been an advocate for my kids, but like, you know, to have the head of special education look at you and say like, he doesn't present autistic with me when he's in my room. You know, it's just a whole nother battle you're fighting because neurodivergent children do not learn the same way that everybody else does. They just don't. Nobody learns the same way. Every human learns differently. So it's just an uphill battle right now with a lot of things, and we'll get through it. We always do. We have wonderful people like the two of you that let me be me, let him be him, and you know, we've got some acreage now where he can run and be naked when he wants to, and
do some dance parties in the
dance
street.
parties, and
Listen to his heavy metal and just get after it.
I know, I love it.
Yeah,
I think that's a really, really important thing for people who aren't in an autistic child, person, grown-up's life at all, to understand is that it doesn't look the same in anyone. And it presents different, and each individual, some people are even nonverbal. Some people don't make eye contact. Some people do. And some people can speak, and they just, you know, so I don't think that it is necessary or, especially if you really don't know, to have any kind of pre feeling of what autism is when you meet someone who's autistic. So just have that in mind, you know, if you're meeting someone, or maybe there's a child in your kid's class or something where it's like, oh, they're autistic. They shouldn't be expected to act a certain way because they have that as their medical disability or whatever. So
it is a spectrum, and they call it that for a reason, because there are such different levels. You know, not one person is the same. So because Miles does speak, I think that and he walks, you know, it makes people think that he is just fine. But he's not.
So what are some of the ways that he presented that you thought, when you were saying, oh, well, we thought for a while that he might have had it, but.
Yeah. So he he was delayed in a lot. He didn't walk till he was 22 months. He does have speech issues, you know, delay in speech, but then also he has these moments of like, he can't get his words out, so he'll kind of pause his speaking, and he's done that since he was little. He's always, you know, lined his cars up by color coded, and, you know, he's had different stems. It used to be a lot with his legs and his hands. Now they're more vocal stems. And so just little things like that we noticed from the beginning. And then meltdowns are much different than a tantrum. And I've learned that over time. But looking back, it's easier to look back now and say, oh my gosh, that it was such a sign. Because he does have a tantrum, but he also has a meltdown, and meltdowns, they're like out of body experiences that he truly cannot control, and from what I've read, it's not like what just happened is not what made the meltdown happen. It's everything that's built up throughout the day that he's tried so hard not to let him bother him, you know. And then another thing that a lot of people say, well, he's high functioning. But the autistic community and the parents of autistic people say, no, that's a horrible term. And that it's more, no, they're high masking. So he's really good at masking it around people that he knows don't understand. Like he can already tell who understands him and who doesn't. And so he's really good at masking, which is at school, unfortunately, because the second he gets in the car, then, you know, he can unmask and explode and be himself. So
that day that I picked him up from school And I was just like, he walked out and I was literally like, who is this kid? Like he was acting so different than his normal being. And it took him until we got back home for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes where I'm like, there's my Miles, there's my boy. Which that's hard. That's really sad to think about, you having to walk through life and hide who you are and bury it, which is going to result in an emotional dysregulation and meltdown later on. But you know that that's the only way you can cope through life to get through the end of the day. That's freaking hard.
So then there's this questions, it goes back to adoption. Like there's questions, his doctor ordered a bunch of genetic stuff because they do say that autism can be genetic a lot of times. So she ordered a bunch of that just for us to see, to kind of understand. And then, I think that as he gets older, he's going to say, why am I like this? He's going to ask if any of his siblings are like this, or his, birth mom and dad. And so there's just all these things that go back to adoption that I wish I could explain. I wish, there was an answer for more of the reasons he is the way he is, like his build right now. And JoJo too, she talks about her hair all the time, and that her hair is not like any of her friends, and why is my mom's like that? And Miles asks, why he has a belly. Who in my family had a belly? Little things like that. So it's just a lot to navigate. But
So Sarah, just feeling the way you do with around Miles and feeling kind of isolated and people don't understand, is there, one thing or something that you could just kind of, if you could tell these people something, what would you want them to know or understand immediately in the situation that?
Well, I would say, first of all, just don't judge a book by its cover, for sure. And that's such an old saying. Like my parents used to tell me that, and it's true. You really just have no idea. You have no idea. And I've always noticed moms and noticed kids, and I've always been the proponent to tell a mom when they're doing a good job. So I say just ask questions. If you really think that you are in a space where you can do better than the parent is doing in that moment, I encourage you to not do that, but to ask questions. Is there something I can do? Did something happen? What's going on? What can I get him? What can I get you? Because, and I don't know. Some people try to parent my children. Friends I'm okay with because they get it. But other people that try to parent my children, I would say, please don't do that. And I'm to the place now where I will say something. But yeah, I just encourage people to you never know. And oftentimes when there's situations like that, especially in public, it's way more than anybody could imagine, that's causing that meltdown. And maybe it's not. Maybe this kid is just having a moment, but we all have our
kids do.
And
all
we all have our moments.
Yeah.
We just know how to not do it in the grocery store.
Sometimes.
True.
That's true. I've had breakdowns in public places myself.
True. And Miles and a lot of autistic people, they are so intelligent.
Oh, it's so obvious.
Intelligent.
Yeah.
And so he will tell you, if you ask him anything about his brain or his body, he will tell you. Now, be prepared to stand there for the next 30 minutes because it will be a really long story. But I think that that's one of the really cool things about people with neurodivergent brains is that they are very into and passionate about, the way, especially as they get older, the way that they learn, the way that they look at life. If you've never watched Love on the Spectrum, I encourage you to watch Love on the Spectrum.
I love those kids.
Right?
I'm watching the 3rd season right now, and I adore each and every one of them. I have, my faves. I think everybody does, but oh my gosh, I have said, I think to you, I was like, if we could all be as authentic as those humans are, they show up as who they are. They tell you how they feel. They let you know what's going on. I just think I adore them. And I think that they are incredible human beings.
I agree. And it really gives me like a perspective of how Miles is going to be as when he's older. And like, it's beautiful. It really is. Like right now, I think kids, that are autistic and are verbal, I think a lot of times are considered to be rude just because they don't understand filters. They really don't have them. And even in like Love on the Spectrum, you can see that they kind of speak their mind, but they know a little bit more like what to say in front of what audience. And so I think just seeing like the growth that they have all had throughout these years, it's exciting to know that he's going to be,
of course, because
out there doing that one of these days.
We all, as parents and especially as mothers, I think we all worry about things about our children. Like, you know, you're worried about as much as your kids have gone through and their small, short little life, you already are kind of anticipating like, okay, I'm going to need this therapy or I'm going to do this. And I think we all kind of have worries like that a little bit. But what I love about especially Love on the Spectrum is they are exposing and introducing people with neurodivergence to the world. And it helps everybody understand a little bit more, but it also helps the people who already know. It's like a little bit of hope or a little bit of to see what the future is and could be like, as long as you're continuing to support your kid in the way that you should, because all of their families have their own dynamic, but they're all very supportive of their young adults, you know, and you can see that with all of that. So it's beautiful. I love that show.
I do too.
Well, and for all of us, just to keep in mind that education is power. So the more that you allow yourself to be exposed without judgment and just to learn, like you said, Sarah, ask questions, just see what people are talking about. And with that piece of it, I think also knowing that doesn't mean that you have to be a professional. Like sometimes you'll veer away from families. Like Sarah, you've said you've lost some different friends, right? And I do wonder if it's like, I don't feel like I know how to show up the right way. So then you just don't show up at all. Like, how about instead just asking the question? Like, you don't have to be a professional. Just say, hey, how can I support you? Or tell me more about that. Or what's this experience like for you? And how could I support it?
Yeah. And I feel like I hear that as a common thread for everyone who people who have physical disabilities and people who are sick or they look different. Usually that's all they want from you is to come up and ask, hey, you know, what's up? What happened? Or if your child is staring at them, they almost welcome you to come over and talk to them. And I think, and you know, if they don't, they'll let you know. But I think that's the first place to start, is just walking over and saying hello and introducing yourself and just saying, hey, I just had a quick question if you don't mind. And usually that's a great way to open up.
Well, and you know, parents like this, another reason that I say like I lost friends, and that's not necessarily like they left for any reason. Some of it is because I had to learn that we can't go into a certain space because he just can't handle it.
Yeah.
I can't go to so-and-so's house because there's something there that for whatever reason just triggers him uncontrollably, and it's not a pleasant experience for anybody. Or, you know, like we don't go to the grocery store ever. Like it's hard to go with kids regardless, but like he has to go look at the cars right away, and it just turns into this thing. And people are like, well, just don't take him over there. And it's not that easy. It's really not, you know? And so there's just certain things that like we've had to just kind of stop doing. And so I've kind of essentially isolated myself, I guess, but I also know that that's what's best for him in this moment. Now, will it always be like that? Hopefully not. Hopefully we can, you know, make progress and get past those things. But for now, that's just kind of the season we're in. And I continue to tell my husband that because he struggles with it a lot. You know, I'm like, we're just in a season and, you know, we'll get past it. And then there'll be new things that we'll have to navigate, but
well, let's just continue to remember too, as moms, that we're here to support each other through everything. And no one knows your child better or knows what to do in a situation with your kid better than you do. So you know that about other moms as well. So just show up for them. You know, if instead of trying to say, don't take him to the cars, I think it would be okay to say, that sounds rough.
Yeah. There's an appropriate response.
Can I take Miles while you go to the grocery store? let's build the community that we're always talking about. Let's continue to support each other without judgment.
Yeah.
And know that Sara is doing the absolute best and better than most, the best she can with her kids, and she knows them better than anybody. So
it's a reminder, great reminder for all of our mamas out there today. And Sara, just acknowledging you and your powerhouse freaking way of being and showing up for your family in ways that most people probably couldn't handle. And that's why God chose you for this avenue. And that's why you've built the life that you've built, because he trusts you with these challenges and this beautiful way of building and doing something different. And you know that you're finding your people, and we're your people, we're your squad. And
raising up these beautiful babies. You really are doing a great job.
Thank you.
They're both amazing. I mean,
you haven't even got to meet all the bigs
I
yet.
haven't
They're
even
freaking
met the
amazing
bigs
too.
yet.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not any of them. I've
Yeah.
only seen pictures, but man, do I love a rock out moment with Miles and JoJo. Like, oh, that's one of my favorite things, just having a dance party with those kids. So
We love you. Thank you so much
you.
for coming and sharing again today.
Yes,
Thank
Sara.
you for having me.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, we love your guts.
Love your guts.
Love all your guts. Love your baby's guts.
Yep.
Yes, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Thanks for joining, and don't forget to subscribe and, of course, share with your friends. That's how you impact more lives. All right, see you next time.
You're welcome.
How come every time I sit down, my nose starts to run right here?
right here.
Every
It's-
time in this chair,
it's
like
magical.
Here, I just want to glisten out.